So, I think it's been a couple of years since I played Assassin's Creed Syndicate and did a video on the character Ned from that game because apparently his presence in the game caused a bunch of people to flip out, but interestingly enough, only after She Who Must Not Be Named mentioned that there was a trans man in the game. And I'm still of the opinion, I'm not convinced that Ned is necessarily trans. And the point there dovetails with what I want to be talking about right now, which has to do with historicity and the selective way it tends to be applied to video games and other media. Because people were arguing that nobody would fall for this and nobody would put up with this, when you don't have to really do a lot of research to find instances of women presenting as men and getting degrees and getting jobs and serving on boats and serving in the military, and some of them even being killed and buried as men. And it's kind of funny because I played the game before I played Assassin's Creed 4, which I still never finished because it actually bored me, but the bigger point here is that had I played pretty much any of the game before I had made that video, I probably would have made a different video, because one of the things that was interesting to me is that they use a character in the game who poses as a man but is very blatantly a woman even before they bother telling us that. And the funny thing is that she is explicitly based on a historical character who historically dressed up as a man, who historically got away with it until historically revealing it to her partner, and that ended up being her downfall. The game also features a rather notable female pirate who never presented as a man and who was successful. So maybe it's just an explicit historicity thing, because this character, not really sure if I want to do spoilers in this video, even though the game's like 5 years old or something like that at this point, but this character really is based off of a person who actually existed and actually had a life that sort of mirrors this, whereas Ned is, as far as I know, a fictional character that at best is based off of an actual trend of Victorian times. Except then you go look at Assassin's Creed Unity, and people asked why there wasn't a female protagonist, and the response was, lol, a lady assassin? How unthinkable, when, you don't actually have to do much in Google to find that one of the most notorious assassinations of the era happened at the hands of a woman. Or, why can't there be a person of color? Well, black people weren't in France at that time, when, again, it doesn't take a lot of digging to find black freemen who existed at the time in France. I'm bringing this up for two reasons. The first being that I just watched a video by Tetsubo57 about role-playing games and accuracy being an excuse, and the other one, which is more pertinent to the Assassin's Creed thread in my head right now, is that I have been playing Assassin's Creed Origins of late. I've really enjoyed the game. It's been fun. But from the beginning, there have been complaints. People complained when Bayek was announced because apparently having a brown person in Egypt is not a sign of historicity, but a sign of the SJW agenda shoving its fist down the throat of true gamers, or I don't know. And then people got upset about Aya. Well, Aya could never get away with acting like that in a historic setting because women were oppressed throughout history. And, the game even makes a point of making note that Egyptian standards for gender roles were very, very different from European standards. More recently, the Assassin's Creed team has released Discovery Tour, which is basically a way of them showing off the fact that they did 4 years of research on this game and actually learned a thing or two about Egypt. Most of it's fairly boilerplate stuff, but it allows you to do a non-combat tour through the game world that they have created, and talks not only about the historicity of the game, but also some of their behind-the-scenes decisions. There is one behind-the-scenes decision that is apparently causing problems because the development team basically says during the tour that boys and girls were educated separately, but that they decided that historical sexism took a backseat to gameplay. And, of course, there's an uproar. There's not an uproar about the fact that the Sphinx is only about 4 people tall and that it actually looks more like it's classically depicted than what it probably actually looked like. There's no real complaints about the liberties they took with the Library of Alexandria or the construction of some of the cities. But you mentioned that boys and girls would be educated separately, but they're not depicting that for gameplay purposes. Oh my god, suddenly there's a big deal. Never mind the fact that the whole premise of the game is that you are a person in the present day with a special third strand of DNA because you're partially descended from aliens who are totally not aliens but totally aliens, whose technology can be used to look into the past and see things as they historically were, but with magical artifacts and Templars and assassins running around controlling everything. Never mind the fact that you fight a giant glowy snake in the game, and that in an upcoming expansion, Bayek is actually going to travel to the underworld and deal with giant scorpions and jackal-headed soldiers. This is the thing that we need to be historically accurate about. This one thing. And again, it's funny how historicity always seems to become an issue only when it suits certain people, because most of the other cases that I've mentioned are actually historical. Or if not historical in the sense that they absolutely did happen, historical in the sense that they could have happened. They're more plausible than jumping into a haystack from 5,000 feet in the air and surviving. And in my playthrough of the game, you have Bayek running around in an Iron Man-style suit that was located under the Sphinx in a hidden compartment, and he's riding on a unicorn, and his weapons cause people to catch on fire. But if boys and girls are being taught together in the same class, that is the true historical inaccuracy, right? Thanks for listening. Amaranth, out.